Sahana Vavadu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Viddushavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. This physical body of ours, with its sense organs, organs of action, mind, the inner organs, can be considered as a fully equipped machine which is at the disposal of a person who can operate it to his advantage. Say a car, which is automobile, which has all its parts aligned. And its driver, even when for driving, the person who is handling should have a desire to drive. He should have a goal towards which he can drive his car. And he should have the energy to do so. Otherwise, all these arrangements are of no avail. The most important factor is the person. And the person should have knowledge of the machine as well as the world outside, his path. He should have a knowledge of his goal. He should have a knowledge of his path. And he should be able to receive the light which illuminates his path. Then he should know how to handle his machine. This is the arrangement. And when there is a set goal for a person, and the person has a motive to drive to that goal, he may still have certain obstacles in his path. In yoga, these obstacles are called kleshas. Klesha means difficulty. And what are these difficulties? The first difficulty that is mentioned here is called vyadhi. Vyatha means that which gives you agony. It may have an origin which is remote, and also it can have an origin which is immediate. And the origin of an agony which is remote has something to do with the time. So it is a Kala Klesha. If you have misbehaved to a person 2 years ago and then you forget all about it, and at a crucial time when you are about to do that something, if that person reappears there, then what you have forgotten is suddenly brought back to a new situation. The same way, our karmas, actions of the past, do not die away. They all remain with their potentials to come and afflict us in a manner we never thought it would come. And thus, obstacles which we confront now could have resulted from what we have already done or how we have strayed into a path some time back, and there can be cumulative effect of certain kind of actions. Therefore it is said that all diseases are born of various kinds of colorations of your body, mind, and your psyche. When I say psyche, you should think of it as something more than your mind, because there are certain physical aspects which cannot be separated from your mind. There are certain mental aspects which cannot be separated from your body too. Suppose you experience anxiety. What exactly is anxiety? And the time of anxiety, you feel an uneasiness of your physical heart. You feel uneasiness of breathing, which is also physical. That means two vital faculties in you, such as your heart and your lungs, are giving you uneasiness. The ease with which your heart pumps blood alters. Then we may call it the heart has a hypertension. Hypertension is physical, but then it affects your brain. That is also physical. When there is a rush of blood into the small capillaries in the brain which cannot hold that much blood, there is a strain given to it, physical. But you recognize it as a mental distraught. So thus we do not know what is mental and what is physical, mainly because mental and physical are the same. We call two names just like the North Pole and South Pole of a magnet. Magnet is one and the same needle, but at some point you decide you have come to the South Pole, and from beyond certain point you think you are in the North Pole of the magnet. Similarly, in one and the same organism, at one end you call it mind, at another end you call it body. In any case, that is afflicted. When it is afflicted, the works you normally do with a pleasure, with a certain correct motive, you find difficult to perform. So this lack of easiness or comfort is called a roga, is called a disease. Usually a roga results from a conditioning which has gone to some excess. How excessive a contact is, it is very delicate. According to the Ayurveda science, a contact can be musical, a contact can be jarring. This body of ours is considered to be very much like a veena. With two of your fingers and the dexterity of your wrist, the palm, you can move your hand up and down the veena string, applying certain pressures. But for that, the string of the veena should remain tuned. If there is a high tension in the wire of the veena, it gives a jarring note. And if there is low tension there, it won't produce the sound that you want it to produce. Only at a certain tension it gives the right pitch. So a body has to be in tune for you to play with it. And you can see that a musician is taking great care to tune and bring the right pitch before he or she starts playing. This we have to do every day. When we wake up in the morning, the first thing we attend to is to this instrument of ours called our body mind. Not just body, body mind. And tune it for the day's performance. And here, when you say it is a contact, although the veena has only 5 strings and the person is only applying 2 fingers, hundreds and thousands of tonal effects can be made on these strings, and you can make a musical atmosphere around you. It's all through contact. A contact has within it a certain amount of conditioning, half that belongs to the instrument and half to your own understanding. If only you are informed that such and such a tonal effects can produce such and such a kind of raga. Raga is again a coloration of your psyche. So to bring that effect of a raga, a certain contact is to be given with a certain pitch order. This is a performance with a great sensibility. So cultivating that sensibility in one's life is very important. So if you do not touch the wire properly, touch at all, it won't produce any music. If you touch it very gently, then also it will produce only a feeble effect. If you touch it too hard, that is very jarring. It may even break the string. So three kinds of contacts are to be avoided. Non-touch, very gentle touch, hard touch. Apart from these three, there is a normal touch. And that norm is difficult for many people to get. Only by sitting with a master and through a number of corrections, one comes to a normal touch. It is this normal touch or normal contact which gives you the desired effect. Now, with what do you touch? This system of ours is such that we go from the most subtle to the gross. Or you can learn the other way. From the gross, you go to the higher and higher aspect of this subtle. But if you go from the cause to the effect, you should go from this most subtle to the most gross. The most subtle belongs to Akasha. Akasha has this quality of sound. You are affected by sound. You are conditioned by sound. The language that you listen to, you hear, is constituted of the pitches of sounds, of tones, which are multicolored, and the coloration of the tone can touch your tympanum, the eardrum. It can also touch an area of association in your mind where it can evoke a certain concept, certain idea. And that idea can bring along with it a string of other ideas which are previously connected with it or associated with it. So the contact is physical and the consequence is mental. This is about the contact in sound. At that time, to decide the relevancy of the concept evoked by the touch, you need a judging faculty operating there. Therefore, the decision-making faculty called buddhi changes its complexion. It is now centrally placed in the world of sounds. So it is a listening intellect, a discerning intellect which is centrally placed in the faculty of hearing. And another contact is possible at a tactual level. Our whole body is covered with skin. And anywhere in the body, if you touch, it gives you a sensation. A sensation is called samvedanam. Vedana is pain. But there are cultivated pains which have become non-pain or even pleasure. Cold and heat are capable of giving pain, sensation of pain. But in a cold place, if you sit before a heater and you receive heat, that is a pleasure. It's a cultivated pleasure. Similarly, in a hot place, if you get into an air-conditioned room, cold becomes a pleasure. It's a cultivated pleasure. The pains and pleasures have a central point where it is comfortable, and when it goes into excess on either side, you cannot stand it for a long time. Thus everything has a golden mean, and in this contact of touch, there also the discerning faculty of buddhi or intellect comes and occupies a central place in touch. Then it becomes sparsha buddhi. In the previous one, where it was only listening, it is shabda buddhi. Now it becomes sparsha buddhi. Another contact is through your eyes. And where you are looking at a form, there are millions of forms you have seen which you can recognize now, because a replica of the form is inlaid in the registry of your consciousness as a memory, and in one sense you have programmed your biocomputer, and it can feed back to you on seeing the form all the previous data which you have gathered about that particular form. Here also you may have eyes, but if you have a long sight or a short sight, you may not see the form properly. That is in a blind person it is non-touch. In a person with a diseased eye it can be a distorted touch. But with properly regularized glass, etc., you get the right kind of contact. We can speak of the same when we come to the contact with the tasting faculty of the tongue. You had to decide whether it is sweet or sour or pungent or bitter or saltish or a combination of all this. Again, the judging faculty comes with its power to discern, and is a little more salt, you do not like it, a little more sweet, you don't like it, a little less sweet, you don't like it. So pains and pleasures are sitting side by side, And only at the very center you feel that you are comfortable with that contact. And finally, the various kinds of smells, the contact with the smell. We have 5 organs which are all capable of making contacts, just like the 5 strings in a veena. So the 5 strings, with the different contacts you make the music. Similarly, in our everyday life, we are playing on this veena of our life, of our body, making these contacts. And in the contact, as I said, there can be an asamyoga, that is non-touch, a samyoga which is mrudu, that is not effective, a samyoga which is hard, that is ati-yoga, and then a proper samyoga. So all these ati-yogas especially, they make your system wear out soon, and that brings diseases. An ayoga at all, asamyoga, that makes the instrument of your body not disciplined, not put to use. Just like something rusts out because you do not use it. Similarly, the system in us needs continuous daily use, otherwise it rusts out. So 2 kinds of diseases come to us. One is because of the lack of functioning a certain part of our body or a faculty of our body mind. The other is by too much indulgence or too harsh a way of putting it to practice. Both produce disease in us. So the first obstacle is roga. Now, we cannot very easily dismiss this item called disease. This is the most important thing in human life. Only at ease you can function properly. When you have disease, your mind is at the disease part. Where pain is, attention goes there. Where pleasure is, attention goes there. And disease is where pain is evoked, and therefore your attention cannot go far from where the pain is calling you. Once you relieve your mind of that pain, it is not available to give its attention to the right thing, which is in your program. If diseases are born of colorations, what are these colorations? The first coloration is called kama or desire, because your actions have all to result from your volition, the will to perform. The will is preceded by your idea of the pleasurability of a thing or a value factor. Now there are values which belong to the perennial and values which are fleeting. If you are a disciplined person, discipline comes from the act of discrimination, and you discriminate between two values. You have to make a choice between a fleeting value and a permanent value. Of course, they are not absolutely permanent or absolutely fleeting. These are relativistic terms. Relatively valueless, relatively valuable. In our daily life, if you want to achieve something of value, attain something of value, you are asked to pay for it. And there is always this compensatory effect. So much effort, you get so much gain. No effort, no gain. So your life has a bargain in it. The bargain in it is how much effort you are willing to put there to get certain pleasure. And this effort is what you put in your volition, in your will. And for that, there is this prerequisite of studying the prospects of what you are going to perform. And only if you are convinced that it is worthwhile to put that much effort, that you will it. Thus, karma has two ends, two aspects. One is the knowledge aspect of the Vishaya or the object of your desire, and the other is the actual amount of energy that you have to turn that way, channel that way to attain it. So one is belonging to consciousness, and the other is an effort in which the body has to be the main agent. There is a shift of interest, of volition from the knowledge to work. Knowledge and work, jnana and karma. So jnana precedes karma. And if there is no right knowledge, you may press the wrong button. Consequently, it may backfire or it may cause some disaster. So karma, desire, it can be anything ranging from the lowest pleasures of life to the highest meaning of life. Moksha is also desired, but it is the highest. The indulgence in a certain smell or vasana, that is an instinctive function, that also can evoke karma in you, but it is of the lowest kind. Now, where you stand in your daily choice of motivation and the drive, that depends on what culture you have, how much you know, the know and the how. Not only you should know, you should also know how to perform. So you should have a know-how. This is with regard to karma. And in karma, when you have once brought together the faculty of action and the faculty of knowledge, and they are aligned, physically so many things are happening to you, such as say you have established a path through the synapses. That means the sensory system and the motor system are so aligned that like an arc, when the initiative is given, signaled, a whole performance takes place automatically. The first time when a painful sensation is going through your synapses, opening up all the resistance and reaching the result, you become fully conscious of what you are doing. But when it is repeated 10 times, 30 times, that becomes an automation. And thereafter, the consciousness can wander from its normal track, and you are not aware of what you are doing. Just as when you drive your automobile and you are going to the office, you know all the roads and where all the curves are, where all the signals are. Automatically you are driving and you think of other plans, other things with your mind. The conduct is there, but now it is not a voluntary function, it is an automatic function. In the automatic function, your discerning mind is not there, so you do not know how much effort physically you have put in a thing. Because the automation is like a machine. It goes on taking the fuel. Your car does not know if the fuel is running out. Only you know it. And when the fuel runs out, it just stops in the middle of a road. And then you realize that you are not mindful of the fuel in the car. The same thing happens to the body. A number of our actions, when they are all converted into automations, the body goes on taking fuel from it without our informing us where we stand with regard to the resources of a particular faculty. You run out, become exhausted. Suddenly you find you are a sick person. You cannot perform. Thus, karma is a very complicated thing. It begins the desire with full consciousness, started functioning with full consciousness, and soon runs out of consciousness, and you go on repeating it umpteen times, not knowing what you are doing. So this is something which should forewarn us that our body is a perishable thing, that you should not overdo anything. And what is the first sign that everything is not going well? Irritation. Irritation comes. Irritation for no reason. There can be an irritation caused for a reason, such as when a thorn is gone into your foot. It's an irritation which is on your safe side, because it asks you to remove the thorn, and by removing the thorn you help yourself. But how many kinds of thorns are there? When your motivation is in one way and you have set your mind to get it exactly as you want it, you have only yourself in that sphere. Then another person may get in, maybe a brother, a mother, or a father, or a wife, or a child, someone gets in and say, no, you should not perform that way. But you have already put yourself into a psychological set. Every atom in you is now rearranged with a certain poise to charge in a certain direction. Only the final leap is to be made. At that time, if somebody confronts you or pulls you from behind, your whole system gets into disarray. And these contacts are all done through various kinds of glandular secretions. You see, our body functions not only physically but also chemically. The chemical functioning of our body with the various enzymes, how many kinds of enzymes are there? Modern scientists have at least isolated more than 1,000 enzymes which are all generated in our own brain, and each enzyme has its way of altering your moods from high energetic function to the lowest key. They can move, change you. And how many glands are there? So many glands, and each one with a different function. Even the very mention of something, say tamarind for instance, to an Indian tongue it can salivate. Salivary gland is one gland. You do not put something in your mouth, only you think of it. Only you hear the sound, it salivates. A possible contact or even a memory of a sex object that makes your gonads function. You have similarly the pituitary gland. It can secrete. The adrenal, it can secrete. So these secretions, which are the flow of certain chemicals in your system, when once it is generated, once it is initiated, you cannot immediately stop it, because it is something like a certain poison that has gone into the system. If there is 1 liter of petroleum, gasoline, and you set fire to it, you cannot stop it in the middle. The whole thing burns out. Similarly, a certain amount of certain enzyme has started functioning in you, and it has to burn out. And how many such burning out of highly flammable things in your system you can stand? So karma or desire, which is mostly blind, goes on firing explosives in you, in your daily life, and it results in the krodha. Krodha is something you can directly relate to the adrenaline. The adrenal gland is intimately connected with your irritations, with your krodhas. And a number of other faculties in your body are intertwined with it or interlinked with it, such as, say, the glycogen that is produced immediately, and your system becomes all energetic, You experience even physically the heat when the glucose is released in you. And there is such a supply of energy to you that you can perform many things which otherwise you cannot do. Thus, Kama and Krodha go together. And what is the motivation of Kama? The avarice, lobha in you. You are beset with the instinct of self-preservation, and for self-preservation you need a number of items around you, food for instance, clothing, a good house, comforts of life. These are all use values, but in your mind you change them all into exchange values. And these exchange values are seen in tokens such as money or certain things which are barterable. So you accumulate. You have the tendency to hoard and accumulate. Recently, yesterday's paper had shown that in the dressing room of Marcos, his wife, she had more than 500 various kinds of fur coats. And so there is no end to lobha. It is a great thirst. You desire more and more and still more and still more. So that has a power of induction to induce you to act, to desire. So Kama and Krodha, lobha. And why don't you know that you require only one small stomach? You cannot fill that with all the granaries, grains of the granaries. Because there is a moha. Moha means an illusory aspect of non-discrimination, where the plurality of things loses the count. After a certain count, you say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then say more. And how much you are going to put into the more, you have no count. So that is called moha. Beyond a certain measure, you run into measurelessness, and then you don't count at all. Then comes pride. That pushes you into the world of malsarya. Especially in the case of traders. People who are in the transactional world, where you are making your fortune by working hard, you have many rivals in that world. And rivalry keeps you always on your toes. So you say, oh, that fellow is going to win over me, I won't allow. So all night you are planning how to give your contract in such a manner that it becomes acceptable than that of another person. So malsarya is there. Competition. All these 6, that is desire, anger or irritation, the desire to possess, becoming confused about that desire, becoming proud of your position, and then getting into competition. These are considered to be the immediate cause of all diseases. your physical terrain where you don't know when you are standing in the arena and fighting. If two people are fencing and they are using their swords, even if a person is cut in the thick of the fight, he does not realize that he is wounded. And even when the blood is freely flowing, he will be still fighting. Only when he comes out of the arena, he realizes how many wounds he sustained. So the life has become a fight for many people. And only when they are so wounded and they are drained of their blood and there is no sustaining energy, they fall back on their bed and say, "Oh, well, I am a sick person, I am diseased." So this is considered the number one enemy of yoga. So we speak of bhoga leading to roga. Bhoga means the enjoyment of life which is leading you to disease. The other is the enjoyment of life which is moderate when disciplined, by which the very enjoyment brings you to yoga. Yoga, bhoga, roga. So it can be bhoga leading to yoga, bhoga leading to roga. And how much excess is there, that is decided by the health of your body and mind. And this is one thing, one of the kleshas. The second klesha is your body is all right, your mind is there, but you don't have a desire to perform something. So lack of karma is also a disease, a klesha. When you do not have the right kind of interest, you are sitting there waiting for things to happen, and thus many moments are lying dead before you. Your life becomes anemic, disinterested. That is another klesha. Still there is another one. Your mind and your body are both there, but you are assailed by doubts. You do not know whether this thing going this way is good or going that way is good. You are in a state of perplexion. So if you are perplexed, someone should guide you out of it. And you have to relate yourself to a wise person who can see the situation in which you are placed and then lead you out of it. And all these are kleshas. Then there is this klesha of non-contact with the right goal of your life. So unless there is a contact established with the real goal of your life, you have not found out the swadharma of your life. And those who have not found out the swadharma of life, all that time gets wasted. They cannot make any meaningful performance, attempting so many things that also lead to various kleshas. The result is you experience that you have no foundation. It is as if there is no firm plank under your foot. Baselessness. And most people suffer because they do not have a root. A tree has a root which stabilizes the tree. Similarly, those who have found out the vocation of their life, the right kind of work for which every day their energy is to be spent, the purpose of their life, the fulfillment of their desires, they are well stabilized, well rooted. And if that root is not struck, you will be always swinging. Then there comes the reveries. You lose your grip with reality, the transactional reality, and your mind is taken over by the dreaminess of life. You start daydreaming, sitting there and planning too many things in your mind which are all empty, because you have to fill in your desire, but you are fulfilling your desire not in the right life, but in an imaginary world. This is Chitta Vikshepa. That is the projection of certain memories as if they are a reality. And all this put together, we get the cause for diseases. This is one aspect. Another aspect is, we see only this segment of our life. From our birth till this day, and probably we anticipate in which direction we go in this life. But our life is commenced long before, not just when our mother gave birth to us. And if there was a past we do not know, how many potentials are put there into our life sperm by the past, both genetically and psychically, we have no idea. We know that certain of our irritation are similar to the irritation of father. Certain of our willfulness are similar to the willfulness of our mother. Thus, some genetic clues we get. But this is like a seed opening. When a seed opens into a plant, it not only brings forth leaves and flowers, all time-wise, opening so many leaves and then flower, and after flower, fruit, etc., all genetically programmed. Like that, there are also the seeds of diseases in us, which we have brought with us. We are not only growing into life, we are also growing into death. Thus, the causal agent for a certain death. We have brought and it is developed to a certain stage. In Ayurveda they say, such a disease can never be cured. When you have brought the karmic disease for you to die, and it is going into you, no Vaidya, no physician can treat it. So they give a number of items of diseases which are to be decided as it has to grow and it has to take you to death. So we say that certain diseases lie sleeping behind you until the age of 20, 30. Then you find it wakes up and taunts you occasionally. So you look behind and you find there is a disease following you. And you go still further, then you find that the disease has now taken over and come standing next to you, putting the disease's hand over your shoulder and say, "Come on, friend, come on, let us go." And then you find the disease standing before you and leading you to death. And therefore the Ayurvedic physicians, they have categorized curable diseases, incurable diseases. Diseases, when it is of a certain kind, they don't try to treat you because treatment becomes more hazardous than the disease, more tragic than the disease. So why unnecessarily give more pain to a patient when you know that this treatment can bring only more pain and more discomfort? Then they say, now allow the disease to carry him out. So these are the 6 kinds of ragas or colorations of our body and mind which brings disease. And the other kleshas. Now as we go on, we examine our own personal life and see where there are the loopholes which can be plugged and what kind of diseases you can avoid and how you can give a new orientation to your life where many complications can be cut off, thrown off. That we'll say tomorrow. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.